All right, happy Monday and welcome back to the Cap Rack. It is Monday, August 3rd. We got 9 MLB games, 6 NBA games, and 6 NHL games for you. I went a little bit over the 10-minute threshold that I set for myself last episode, so I'll try to keep it under this time and see where we go. Starting off with MLB, we have the Cleveland Indians visiting the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are minus 144 on the money line, total set at 8.5. Both of these teams have been pretty average. I like the Cincinnati Reds rotation, at least the top half of the rotation, a little bit better than the Indians so far, but they got a couple young guys that have been pitching pretty well here. Given that this game is in Cincinnati, I'd lean towards the Reds, but I'm not so sure about this one. I'm not going to put a play on it. I'm not too sure about that. I would stay away. Moving on, we got the Phillies visiting the Yankees. We have Garrett Cole back on the mound for the third time. He's 2-0 right now with about a 3 ERA. Jake Arrieta making his first start for the Phillies. The Yankees are minus 300 on the money line. Phillies plus 250. Again, I'm going to stay away from this. I think the Yankees are going to take this one. The Phillies have only played 3 games because they were scheduled to play against the Marlins, and we all know about the outbreak with them. So it's pushed back the Phillies schedule a little bit. But, I would take the Yankees in this, but minus 300 is just a little bit too much juice here. I would even kind of recommend maybe throwing a little tiny bit on the Phillies and banking that Arrieta gets back to his, I believe, like 2016, 2017 form where he was pretty much lights out in Chicago. But yeah, look, I wouldn't play this game. Moving on, we got the Mets with Jacob deGrom on the mound against Mike Soroka and the Braves. This is actually a pitching rematch we saw about a week ago, early in the season in New York. The Mets took that one 1-0. The trend of not giving Jacob deGrom run support kind of held up a little bit, but they ended up eking that one out in the end. The line for this, we got the Braves as plus 112 home dogs and the Mets minus 128 on the road. Yesterday, Cespedes did not report to the ballpark. Later reported that he's actually opting out of the season this year. I don't think it makes much of a difference for them. Yeah, he's got some pop, but look, he wasn't hitting for average. He wasn't getting on base. He can barely run. He can't play the field. So it's strictly a DH option. And the Mets have guys. They just traded for Billy Hamilton. They started out the season 3-2, but then dropped 5 straight, now sitting at 3-7. But with deGrom on the mound, I'm actually going to recommend you take the Mets away, minus 128. I think they can do enough, just like they did in the last rematch of deGrom and Soroka, and take this win. Next, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates with Derek Holland on the mound, visiting Minnesota with Lewis Thorpe on the mound. The Twins are minus 230 on the money line. Pirates plus 196. The Twins have one of the best lineups in the league. Their bats are really coming through here. They're knocking the ball out of the park a year after they set the home run record as a team. But yeah, look, I don't know if I'd lay this much juice on a guy like Lewis Thorpe. If you had to, I'd probably take the over here because the Pirates have showed that they can score a couple runs. They played the Brewers pretty tough in the last series, but the Twins lineup is just that good, and I think they can smack Derek Holland around a little bit. So over 9.5 would be my play for this one if I had to play this game, but I'm not going to touch the money lines or run lines for this game. Then we got the Royals visiting the Cubs. We got Danny Duffy on the mound for the Royals at plus 130 and Alec Mills on the mound for the Cubs at minus 150. This is one I really like. Alex Mills pitched really well in his first start this year against Cincinnati. I think it was in Cincinnati. I believe it was somewhere to the tune of like 6 runs or 6 innings, 2 runs, 2 hits, yada, yada. They won the game. Look, he's pitching now at home, minus 150 on the money line. I'm going to go with the Cubs here. Then we got the San Francisco Giants with Johnny Cueto on the mound at plus 124 at Coors Field in Colorado, where the Rockies are minus 142 favorite. That game is at 8:40. I'm going to stay away from this. I don't really know what to expect here. The Giants lineup has been kind of sus, and the Rockies have been the Rockies. I mean, they've been good. They're hitting the ball. They're back at home now. The total here is set at 13. I just want to stay away from this game as a whole. I don't really know much about this. It could go either way. Then we got a really good pitching matchup here in San Diego. We got the Dodgers and Walker Buehler visiting Chris Paddock and the Padres at Petco Park. The Padres are plus 114 on the money line. We got Walker Buehler and the Dodgers at minus 130 on the road. Total is set at 8. Chris Paddock has been good. I don't really know if it's necessary, if I think he can really shut down a a Dodgers lineup as good as the Dodgers are. But look, I've been riding the Dodgers home and away throughout the first 10 games of the season so far. So I don't know. I think I'm going to lay 130 on the Dodgers away. I think they can get to Paddock. Their lineup is much better than the Padres, even though the Padres have shown that they're that sneaky team this year. Yeah, for sure. Dodgers minus 130 on the road. And then finally, the last game of the day, we have the Oakland Athletics with Frankie Montas on the mound against Justice Sheffield and the Mariners at Safeco Field in Seattle. Seattle are plus 164 on the money line at home, and the Athletics are minus 190 on the road. The Athletics are good, but the Mariners bats have been kind of hot, like sneakily good. Their young guys are really stepping up. So I don't know if I want to lay almost minus 200 juice on the Athletics on the road. So this is a game I'm going to stay away from. But yeah, that rounds out our MLB slate for today, I believe. I think there's one game in here that I'm missing, but I don't think the lines are up yet. Anyway, moving on to the NBA here. We got 6 games. Starting off at 140 today, we got the Raptors and the Heat. The Heat are plus 136 on the money line. Raptors minus 162. Look, I'm not going to pretend to know the NBA because, look, I really don't follow it as much as I follow baseball. Baseball is really my thing. If you want clear-cut NBA picks, look for Nick, Mano, or Sam's blogs on capsonsports.com. They'd have much better insight than I would. But I'll also give you my quick little opinions here. I mean, I do follow it, but it is what it is. I'm big on the Heat. I mean, we had a podcast on, I believe it was the Caps on Sports podcast back about 2 months ago, where I said to the Heat, if they catch fire, they could be one of the sneaky teams in this NBA restart here. Raptors are good, no doubt about it, but plus 136 at a neutral court. I think the Heat can take this game, so I think that's good value there. Moving on, we got the Nuggets and the Thunder. Thunder minus 245 on the money line. Nuggets plus 200. This game's at 410 today. I think there's some value here on the Nuggets here. Just check the lineups. I don't know who's in, who's out, but either don't play this or play the dog on this. I think the Nuggets are good enough to get a win here, but I wouldn't necessarily lay it. Even the plus 6 is fine. Moving on, we got the Pacers against the Wizards. Wizards, obviously one of the teams that probably shouldn't be in the bubble right now, but they are. We got the Pacers at minus 310, the Wizards at plus 250. A line set at minus 7.5 for the Pacers. If you had to, I would take the Pacers here because the Wizards are just pretty non-competitive, but I would stay away from this. Definitely not play a money line unless you're throwing the Pacers in a parlay. Next, we got the Grizzlies against the Pelicans. The Pelicans blew a game to the Jazz, I believe, where they had a 15-point lead, and then they got absolutely routed by the Clippers here down in Orlando. The Grizzlies are pretty scrappy. But again, look, I don't really know. Line set at minus 4.5 for the Pelicans and minus 200 on the money line. Like I said, I'm going to lean towards the Pelicans here. I don't really know. I'm not too confident in it. But, yeah, I'm going to lean Pelicans on this one. Next, we got the Spurs and the 76ers. The 76ers are minus 7 with a minus 295 money line. We got plus 240 for the Spurs on the money line. Total set at 226.5. Sixers are definitely a much better team here. I don't know if I'd lay minus 7 on them just because they're a little up and down. But, yeah, I'd definitely lean towards the Sixers win here if you want to throw their money line in the parlay. I think that's a good option. Then for the nightcap of the NBA, we got the Utah Jazz and the Lakers. Lakers are set at minus 6 and the Lakers money line at minus 245. And you got plus 200 on the money line for the Jazz. Look, the Lakers are the Lakers. We know who they are. They've been playing pretty well as of late, but the Jazz are also sneaky. I don't know. I mean, 6 points is a decent amount here, and a lot of points are being scored, so there's so much room for volatility in these games, especially on a neutral court with no fans, in a bubble where guys are pretty much just out of their element. Yeah, I'm going to lean towards the Lakers here. I think it's worth throwing them in a parlay. They played 2 tough games so far. But yeah, moving on to hockey, which, like I said, if I don't know a lot about the NBA, I definitely don't know too much about hockey. But I'm definitely going to give you the money lines here, the spreads, and the totals. So starting at 12 o'clock, we got the Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes are minus 155, Rangers plus 130 on the money line. Then we got the Winnipeg Jets and the Calgary Flames. Jets plus 135 on the money line, Flames minus 160. Both of those first 2 games totals are at 5.5. Then moving on, a good matchup here. We got the Washington Capitals and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning are minus 135 on the money line, and the Capitals plus 115. Moving on, we got the Dallas Stars plus 120 against the Vegas Golden Knights at minus 140, total set at 5.5. Then we got the Canadiens versus the Penguins. The Canadiens plus 150, Penguins minus 175, total also at 5.5. Then we have the Blackhawks versus the Oilers. The Blackhawks are plus 115 and the Oilers minus 135, total set at 6.5. So I just want to circle back to my plays of the day. My blog will be out by the time that this episode drops in a couple hours. Just want to recap my picks for the day, though. We got the Mets at minus 128, Jacob deGrom versus the Braves. Then we have Pirates versus Twins. I'm going to go over 9.5. I think a lot of runs are going to be scored there. Then we got the Cubs money line at minus 150 and the Dodgers versus the Padres at minus 130. So that's 4 picks for you today. I'm really going to start getting consistent with these every morning. I was on vacation last week. But now every morning, 10 minutes a day, going to give you everything you need to know. All of the picks, all of the information, with all the fat pretty much just cut out of it. But yeah, that is today's episode of the Cap Rack, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.